We are silence. We are that silence, the one silence. We don't know that. We think we are human beings. We think there is matter around us. We think we are something else. But in fact, we are only this pure silence. When I say the word silence, it's not what you think it means. It's not the opposite of noise. This silence is not the opposite of noise. In the real world, not the illusory world the humanity lives in, there is no difference between right and wrong, good and bad, light and darkness, noise and silence. It's one thing. So when a person perceives reality, he sees it in two ways, like there are two options, one against the other. The truth is there are no two options. It's one option. It's only the one essence. Inside it, everything lives in harmony. In usual perception of the world will think what I'm saying is a paradox, because two things can't be one. But in my world and in the real world, the one that I hope everyone will get to very soon, I wish, in this real world, there is only one thing, and this is not a paradox. This is simply what is. Silence is not the opposite of noise. The silence I'm talking about. Not the silence you know. Not the silence that you get after you get into a quiet room. This is one kind of silence. It's the opposite of the noise that was outside. So this room is quiet. This silence exists and lives inside the noise. It's no difference if it's a very loud place and there's noises coming from all the places. It doesn't matter. It's still silent because it is that noises. All these noises are this silence. This silence is everything, so it's also a noise. It's everything. When you try to connect to this silence, you usually do it through meditation or trying to focus on not thinking or being in a quiet place and understanding that big silence. But usually when you do that, when a person is meditating and he gets to a very quiet place, it's not the real silence. It's the silence of the person who is perceiving a silence. When you know the real silence, you become the silence itself, just like right now, I am silence. I am not speaking. This is silence. This is how it sounds. So when you go to meditation and you get to a silent place, it's not the real silence. It's the silence of the person. And it's good and it's nice and you can get a relief through it, but you are not it. And until you are not that silence, you will not understand that silence. Because this silence has a distinct sound. It has a sound of something you never heard in your life, in your daily experience as human beings. And I say that because I didn't know that I am that silence, and I never heard it, like knew what it sounded like until I was it. So you cannot have heard this sound that I'm speaking about when I say that this silence has a sound, has a tone. tone of this silence is very live. It's a live thing. It's living. It's a living silence. And because it's a living silence, it's not a dead silence. It's not like a silence in space or something like that. When you think about great silence, you can think about space and the remote stars and the sound of galaxies far away and the great silence. It's not the same silence. It's not quiet. Because it is all the phenomena all together. It's the noise of everything together, combined into a sound. If you try to put it like when you cook, you put all the things in the bowl of the mixer and you mix it up. What will you get if you take every sound that you ever heard in your life, you mix it, you get everything together, and yet it's not something that is noise. It's something that is full of essence. This silence has a distinct voice, tone. Many people say that the sound Om, it's the sound of this silence. I can't say that this is this sound. In my experience, when the shift of perception happened to Simcha and she became the one thing that is that silent, she was, before the shift, a person that was driving a car, his head full of thoughts, the enormous intensity of the thoughts that exists in a human brain. We live in a world full of noise. This noise comes from the outer environment. It can come through the people and the voices of the people around us and the transportation that passes by us and music and every noise that we can imagine in outer reality. But the bigger noise is in our heads. It's the impossible, unstopping movement of the thoughts and feeling that are flowing all the time, and we are full, our head is full of noise, of thoughts. These thoughts make so much noise, and it's impossible to live in that noise. Only after the shift, my shift happened, when I became silent, and all this noise stopped in a split second. It's like you stand and you are surrounded by people shouting at you and loud radios screaming at you, and from above there is noise, and everywhere there is no very loud noise. And then when the shift happened, like all these things disappear. You can't believe how you lived in that state of noise and how you could have acted through these noises. How can anyone hear his own thoughts when there are so many and so violent? Our thoughts are so violent. The process of thinking and everything that happens through it and our emotions is a very violent process and loud. It's not gentle at all. It doesn't give the person a place to rest a little so he can act, to see from what point he's reacting. He doesn't know from what is he saying, because he's hearing so much noise inside his head when he's speaking to someone. You speak to someone, you don't hear him, you hear the noise coming out of his mouth. And you know its word and your brain translates it, but the inner chat and judgment and everything makes it so impossible to really hear what the next person is saying. So you live in a constant state of I don't know how to say this word in English. In Hebrew it's called kakaphonia. I guess it's similar word. It's all the noises together and they are not in harmony. And you are not in harmony. And you can't live like that. And you do. When I first heard the silence, everything, it was the most amazing thing, because I was the silence, and when I spoke to people and I saw things, I could really, really hear them, because they were the only thing that was speaking. Or I heard, great, I am the silence, and there is a single voice, the voice of the one who is speaking to me. So I can concentrate, what is he saying? There's nothing else stopping me from listening to him. There's nothing else stopping me from looking at the bird. Nothing. I only can see the bird and hear the bird. So this is why they say that when you are enlightened, you see the world differently, because you see the world for the first time. You can see the world. And what enables you to see the world is the great silence that you are, that you recognize yourself in everything. And then you can see the passing phenomena, the voices, and they come, they don't leave a mark inside the silence, because they can't, they are not real. They leave, and it's such a beautiful movement. And then you enjoy it, and then you enjoy life. When you hear the silence, you can actually hear it, because it's not, as I said, the opposite of noise. It has a sound. I will try to explain what does it sound like. It sounds like when you wake up in the middle of the night, or at 5 before morning, 5, like when everyone is still asleep, and you go outside to your street, and everything is very quiet, but very alive, because you know there are people sleeping around, and the birds are sleeping, and everything will wake up soon. So this quietness is not real. It's full of everything, but it's not speaking right now. It's only there. You know it's there. It has its sound. So when you go outside, you get a feeling, a certain feeling. I always got it when I was outside very late at night, or near the ocean, when at night, when you tune into it, to this place that everything is quiet now, but it's full of liveness. And then when you hear it, it's not unmoving, it's not like constant pitch, though it reminds a constant pitch. It's not a constant pitch, because it goes down and up. What I can say about the silence is it's always there, because it is you. You are that silent. You are not going anywhere. You are it. This is it. All this is an illusion, and you are the silence. So it's always there. But on this silent, things can arise. And when I, as a person who has 4 children, and I work very hard, and a husband, and the big family, and everything I do, I have to react to the people. I can't sit under the tree, though it would have been nice to just sit and immerse in this quietness. But I live, and it's very nice. So when they speak to me, and I have to do things, this quietness that I am it makes room for those voices. But it doesn't go away. It only quiets itself a little. You can always hear it. And then I interact, these voices arise, I do what I need to do, I say, it says, the quietness says what it needs to say, the interaction happens, and when it ends, it doesn't leave anything, and the quietness rises, then the silence rises. It rises every time I don't interact, because it's always there, and it's like humanity can't stop thinking. this silence can't stop being this silence. The thoughts are like the opposite of when you're trying to meditate and you're trying to stop thinking. Here, you can't try to stop feeling that you are that silent. So it's funny because it takes control, and it's the real boss. It's the real thing. This silence is the only thing that exists. And in the regular state, the state that most humans are, thoughts are considered as reality, as what happens in the brain. That this is how the brain is supposed to work, that always thoughts after another, and if you try very hard, you can take a small break. But this is the natural state, thoughts all the time. And the natural state is quietness, quietness, quietness. You can't help it. You can't help it. It's always there. And because it's always there, I can say that it is the most wonderful thing that you can experience, this silence, to be that silence. Because if it was a sound, it would annoy the person. Like if I was Simcha and I was listening to the sound of silence, in one point I would say, okay, it's a nice sound, but how long can I hear this sound? It's repeating itself and I want something else. So this is not the state, because you can't get tired of it, because you're it. And because what we really are is so amazing. It's so wonderful. It's a wonderful thing to be, this silence. So you never get tired of it. There is no one to get tired of this sound. It simply rises every time you don't have to interact as a person. It simply rises. And when you don't have to interact as a person, you can just sit like that. Like if I'll stop talking for, I don't know, for 10 seconds like this, and I'll just look. So it intensifies and intensifies. It's like a movement of deepening. It becomes more rich, and it surrounds you, and it's such a great feeling, because it's like your brain. You feel so loved in your brain, like something is like caressing you, and something is touching you very, very gently in your brain. This is what it feels like to feel this silence. It's such a great feeling. So I think when you act from this state of that you are that silent, you can really hear the world and see the world and act in this world. And so this is the natural state. This is the state you were meant to live from. You were meant to live from this quietness. You are that quietness, and you were meant to interact with people without the craziness. I have no strong enough words to describe how impossible the human state is, the hell that it is, the noise that it is. When it goes away, when you realize what you are, it's the most amazing relief that you literally know how free you are now, and what was before. It's like it was a terrible, not true, awful, it's very hard to live from that noise, and you do that. all the time. And I did that up until I was 45. And I know that. And I know the difference between living from this point of hell, noise that you are surrounded in, and being that silence that you are and acting from it. So it's so blessed, this silence. And the good news is that you are that silence now. You are that silence. You never were something else. You were never a person with a hellish thoughts. And I was never Simcha. This never happened. Right now, we are all that silence. You just have to acknowledge it, accept it, and feel it. Try to feel that silence, to know that you are that silence. And the closest thing I can say, if I can give some kind of advice how to connect to this silence, because I don't, and I never practiced meditation, because I didn't think it was something that was suitable for me before the shift, and now I don't see why I should do it. But if it helps you to be more calm, it's very blessed. But if you want to hear the silence that I'm speaking of, it's a different process, and it has to do with your own life. You have to know that this silence is in the place that you most forget yourself in. Like if I'm an artist and I am painting and I'm so much, and I concentrate so much and I love it so much and I'm in it so much, I'm not thinking, I'm in the process, and when I lift my head I don't know where I am because it was so, I was lost. So this feeling in your life, try inside when you get into a place where you forget yourself, try to hear this silence in your life when you forget yourself in something you really, really love to do. And it always has to do with action. It's not a passive thing. This is why I don't think that meditation can help you hear this silence, because this silence is not passive. It's not, it's so much liveness. It can't come through just concentrating and trying to hear it. It has to be from the process of living, and it can happen. You can hear this silence in a very noisy environment. If you are a DJ and this is your life and you're standing in front of thousands of people and you make so much noise, but inside you, you're so concentrated and filled and whole. This is the silence. So try to listen to this silence of aliveness. It has a sound. This pitch happens. Try to connect to this place. And if you don't have a place that you forget yourself in, please do find something that you forget yourself in. Do something for yourself that is so amazing, that you love so much, that you forget yourself, and you love it so much that you will hear the silence through it. Everyone should have a place like this that makes him so complete that he doesn't need anything. He just wants to do that. He enjoys it so much. And it has to do with doing, with acting in your life and getting somewhere, doing something, creating something, helping something, forgetting yourself through the pure liveness of action. It's not a passive silence. This silence is not passive. And yet, when I define this silence, it's in a place that is not a place, on a timeline that is not a timeline. There is no space or time that can define where this silence is. Where is it? What is it? It doesn't speak in any term that we know as humanity. It is unmoving in its nature, though it expresses itself in so much movement and aliveness. It's unmoving, and it is so amazing. It is the most amazing thing that Simcha couldn't believe that she lived before that state and managed to do something. Because now, from this quietness, I am living for almost 4 years. And I am living so naturally, happily, without any interference. I'm just cruising along, enjoying every millisecond. Everyone around me enjoys it too. They feel my quietness. Because I'm quietness, their thoughts are being relaxed, because it has an influence. This quietness has an influence of quieting everything down, of tuning into it, because it's so powerful. And then when I live my life without the noise, when I am the quietness who lives a life of Simcha. It's a blessed life, It's so much more true. I am so much more useful to others. I can do so much more. I can enjoy so much more. The silence is what we are. We are that amazing silence. Right now, this sound is this silence. When you will speak, your voice is the voice of this silence. It's amazing. It's amazing to know how much things can arise and continue in their way without leaving any mark on this silence. And this is the natural process of thinking. When something rises from the silence, moves, and the silence rises and takes over, and everything is silence, no matter how much noise it makes. It is the silence.
Nothing good, nothing bad, nothing